Hello and welcome back to the channel. The F-15A is the plane of the day, and today we're going to be doing something very special. We're actually going to be flying it against an enemy team that surprisingly has more than 3 brain cells combined for once. Now this is a very rare occurrence in War Thunder, at least in the simulation game mode, but probably War Thunder as a whole, where the enemy team actually knows what they're doing and they actually gave us a really good fight. I was pretty shocked myself. It ended up being a pretty sweaty match, especially towards the end. The beginning of the match was a little bit. We had some more. There were more people on the team, which allowed for some easier kills there. But as the teams kind of fizzled out, and it was one of those ghost lobbies as well, which prevents people from joining. Basically, towards the end of the match, the only people left were the ones that actually kind of knew what they were doing, and it ended up being, like I said, quite a sweaty match. And I think it's a nice way to sort of showcase how to fly the F-15A under, let's say stressful conditions. Just real quick, if you are interested in a War Thunder sim orientated Discord server, then you are more than welcome to join our one. You can find people to play with, you can talk to people about sim, you can talk to people about aircraft in general. The link is in the description. We'd love to have you. Now what can I say about the F-15A? I've already made a few videos on the F-15J on this channel, which is the Japanese version, which I think is akin to the F-15C, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But the main difference between these two things, apart from missile armament of course, is the fact that the F-15A is about half a ton lighter, and you do actually notice it, believe it or not. The F-15A just seems to have slightly more nose authority, I would say, at low speeds, which obviously in turn makes it a little bit better at dogfighting. However, it's not night and day between these two aircraft. Even with the AM-3 missile that the F-15J gets, the way it's coded at the moment, it is basically just an AIM-9M with I think it's 15% more range or something. So it is a better missile, but it's not, like I said, it's not a night and day difference between these two planes. Now, if you already own the F-15J and you're thinking about if it's worth getting the A model, then I would say it entirely depends on how much you actually enjoy dogfighting. If you don't really care that much and you're just about flying through at high speed, getting kills and whatever, then the F-15J is absolutely, it's the right plane for you. However, most of you watching this video will probably only have the A model, so I doubt that it's going to be too much of a dilemma for you. Now, when it comes to how this thing performs in a dogfight, I would say it's actually quite closely matched to something like an F-16A Block 15. It does have slightly less sustained turn rate, but it has a lot better instantaneous turn rate. So at slow speed, when you're doing these rolling scissors and stuff like that, the nose authority on the F-15 is just so much better than it is on the F-16. And the only thing you're really losing is slightly less sustained turn rate, like I said, plus the fact that the F-15 is so much better at low speed vertical loops and stuff like that than the F-16. In fact, I think the F-15 can pretty much always pull out vertical out of its arse whenever it wants to. The F-16 cannot do that. If you find yourself in a merge with a flanker, then it's pretty simple. You can outrate him, and if you get slow with them, they basically have 1 or 2 turns where they can they can outdo you in instantaneous turn rate, but then they're you're actually very evenly matched, except you actually have the thrust to weight advantage, so you can always pull out a vertical and the flanker just can't really follow you in a lot of cases. But you obviously need to be careful with R-73s, but in general you do have a very good chance of killing flankers in one-on-ones. If you find yourself in the merge with a Gripen, then try and keep it one circle, but yeah, good luck. The only thing you really need to be a little bit wary of is if you merge with a Mirage on the top of a mountain or something, and you have a bunch of altitude on you, then it can be a little bit difficult to maintain speed as you rate around the circle or whatever, how you have to fight one of those things. But generally speaking, if you merge with anything, you're in a pretty good spot when you're in an F-15. And check this out, I'm just coming out of the spawn, I'm in my initial climb, getting ready to lob some sparrows off, and then all of a sudden I explode. And I find out it is a very sneaky flanker in the mountains outside of our spawn who fired off a very sneaky R-27 ET at me. I had absolutely no clue it was coming, and he actually ended up getting me another 2 times as much, I think, like that. So yeah, props to him. Now this next clip is absolutely fantastic as well, because it just showcases the bullshit that the AIM-9M is capable of. And you can see I just fired off a Sparrow at about 10 miles at some sort of Russian plane. He's over the big flat valley area, so it's going to be very easy for him to dodge that Sparrow just by flying low. Now I spool up an AIM-9M here with the radar lock. I do get the lock from I don't know, 5 miles out or something. He has absolutely no clue it's coming, because I'm not even pointing my nose at him, so, I guess he hears it coming at the last second. He dumps out a few flares, but obviously at that point it's just way too late. And this is the problem with with C9Ms, it's like you have to pre-flare every time you see an enemy. Every time you see anything approaching you, you don't know if it's friendly or enemy, you have to start dumping out flares. You can't just like go tap, tap, tap. You really have to dump them out, because otherwise it's not going to fool the. It's not going to be enough to get the Seeker to shut off in the 9M, right? Because it has that weird like suspended tracking thing or whatever. Look, in short, these things, I think they're too difficult to defeat in the simulated game mode. They're too powerful. I think either, you know, after all, the aim9M is reduced smoke, not no smoke. So I think you should be able to see these missiles at least a little bit. You should be able to identify them. Either that, or just reduce the flares you need in order to get the Seeker to shut off. I think that would be a nice little way to balance it, because at the end of the day, this is kind of what's causing the huge lopsidedness in teams, right? If you get Sweden and America on the same team, obviously if the Gripen gets the same missiles as well, the Russian team doesn't stay very long, right? And this isn't a secret if you've played Sim at all at this kind of battle rating. It's not a secret that the Russian team is struggling. Yes, they get the R-27ER, which is a very good radar missiles, but radar missiles can be dodged just simply by flying low, right? So anyway, I don't think I've actually talked about the gameplay yet this video. I've just been rambling on about like the balance or whatever it is in this game. Anyway, so I sort of, I keep my radar off here. I know there's a guy fighting over here, and it actually turns out that he actually does end up team killing his teammate there, as you can see, which is always nice to see. Means there's less people for me to worry about, and I end up firing. He's very slow, so the M9M is just going to hit him no problem. Even if he does like get the Seeker to shut off, he's not going to have enough momentum to sort of shift his direction of travel enough in order for the INS thing not to really work on the 9M there. So yeah, I was also flying with a teammate here, Flax, as you've probably seen him in a few of my videos, and he's just showing off a little bit here. Just takes out the two guys in front of me. I was actually hoping for another kill there, but apparently Flax didn't think so. So unfortunately the F-15 doesn't get a TWS mode, which can make reading like verbal situations a little bit more difficult. It's not a terrible loss, but it's you do notice it. Like you do end up missing it if you're used to flying something like an F-16 or something. Now I absolutely love this next clip here, because I think it just showcases the extent of my genius so incredibly well that even Jeremy Clarkson himself would stand up and applaud, nay, salute me. As you can see, before I lock this guy up, there are two targets over there. I lock one of them up by the RWR. I can tell that it is a Mirage 4000 and a Mirage 2000 that I'm dealing with here. Now, you can see the guy that I've locked up has started to notch at about 15 miles. And at this point, I should have already just like turned back. I thought, okay, these guys know what I'm doing. He's obviously not going to let me kill him with a Sparrow. This is going to go to close quarters, and before I could even sort of react, the Mirage 2000 locks me up. I have to go defensive at this point because there is a missile coming my way, and just in case anyone thinks that the Mirage 530 doesn't give you a launchable notification, yes it does. You just saw it right there. I thought I had enough speed, enough distance or whatever to just sort of like turn away from him and still try and sort of take out his friend there. I do start pre-flaring just as a precaution, but it doesn't actually work, and obviously I wasn't fast enough. He was too close, he fires a magic, and I end up eating it. And as punishment, I don't even get his friend. So what was my mistake there? How could I have avoided this death? Well, the second I noticed that I wasn't going to be able to kill these guys with Sparrows, I should have just turned back, right? Good players don't get killed by radar missiles in this game, unless you just catch them out incredibly, like in a stupid spot or something, but radar missiles are just too easy to dodge with the whole multi-pathing thing and stuff like that. Plus, radars aren't radar locks aren't that reliable in this game, I find. I don't know if that's realistic or not. I have no idea, but it's just, my point is, it's very, very easy to dodge radar missiles, and good players generally aren't going to let you kill them with it. So the second I noticed that that was going to be the case, it would have gone to close quarters, and a 2v1, especially against two players that actually know what they're doing and are pretty good at the game, I'm not going to win that, right? 2v1 is just, it's almost an impossible situation if the other two guys play their cards right, and especially if everyone is using missiles that have IRCCM. So once I noticed that, I should have just turned around, used my speed. I had enough time, I had enough range, enough distance or whatever. Regrouped with my teammates or regrouped with my wingman or whatever, and then took them on 2-on-2 or it just led them to my teammates in general or whatever, but I should not have taken them on by myself, and yeah, that was my mistake. I hope you learn from it. Now, I did just merge with a flanker, as you can see, and I want you to pay attention to how much flares I'm actually dumping off. The F-15 does get 240 of them, which is quite a good load. Ignore my bad aim there. And I'm going to pull into the vertical right away here. Now, the reason I'm flaring all the time is because, obviously, because of the R-73s, and pre-flaring the R-73s is probably the best way to defeat them. Now, if you at this kind of range, if we're this close together, once the R-73 sort of gets a lock, they're going to be very, very, very tricky to flare just because of the range and the way that their specific tracking works. And you have 240 flares on board, so don't go sparingly with them, do use them. Now we're going to come into the last clip of the match here, and I think this was a pretty fun little fight. So at this point in the match, most players had left, and it was a 4v4, and I think every player on both teams like ended up clashing in this little area in the mountains here. Now I'm going to keep my radar off. I know there's a Mirage 2000 over there somewhere, I can tell by my RWR, and obviously I'm going to turn my radar off as to not reveal my position to the enemy. At this point I'm just flying visually. There's no real point in having a radar on anyway because I don't get TWS, and it's TWS does help you out a lot in these like sort of like verbal situations or whatever. I start pre-flaring because you never know where a missile might be coming from. I do find the Mirage, I fire off one of the missiles, I think it, I mean you probably outpulled it or it might have gone for the flares or whatever. Obviously the HUD on the F-15 also doesn't show you exactly what the missile seeker is locking onto, which is a little bit disappointing. I've kind of, it never used to be the case like with all of the other planes like the Phantoms and whatever, it never used to bother me that much, but once you get used to it with the F-16s and the flankers and stuff, you kind of miss it once it goes away. And obviously end up getting the Mirage here because, there's like 3 dudes behind him and we all have AIM-9Ms. What is he really going to do about it at the end of the day? Now, the other flanker was still following me around here, which is why I'm kind of like pre-flaring like crazy here. I wasn't scared or anything like that, but it's just kind of like, you do need to be aware of these things because once the R-73 decides it wants to ignore flares, it does ignore flares. I do have enough speed to just climb into the vertical here because I saw he was struggling. He was also defending from like 2 other dudes, so I keep making excuses for them because these were actually like I think these were pretty decent players that we were up against, but obviously the American teams are just so bloody overpowered the way it is, or the American planes I should say. It can sort of make it look easy, even though this wasn't an easy fight or anything like that. But anyway, big old GG to the enemy team here because it was a very close fight and they stuck out and faced the AIM-9M bullshit, which allowed me to get some content for the video, and actually just allowed me to have some fun as well on the American team for once, because finding matches like this whilst you can play on the American team without just having the red team lose the second you start getting like a few kills can actually be a lot more difficult than you think. So yeah, there are a couple people from my Discord server on the other team, as well as Squishface, who's actually a very good sort of one-on-one duelist, I guess you would call it. So obviously he knew exactly what he was doing or whatever like that. So yeah, very fun match all round, and I think my final score was 19-7. It was a ghost lobby, so the second it ended, it pulled me into the next match, so I can't like show you the end match like screen or whatever. But I'll pull up a screenshot here, and it's yeah, like I said, 19-7. And other than that, I will see you next video. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers.